This story is one that everybody must watch. Before we continue, I want you to quickly drop where you're watching from in the comments. Let's see our family from all over the world. Now, sit back, relax, and let's dive into today's powerful story. Richard was in his early 40s, a man whose voice carried authority, but whose heart often melted for his family. He ran a small logistics company that transported cement, tiles, and other building materials to sites across the city. His income wasn't always steady. Sometimes contracts delayed, sometimes clients owed him. But God had been kind. Clara, on the other hand, was the backbone of the house. In her mid-30s, she was beautiful, tall, and graceful. She managed a growing catering business. Every week, orders came for weddings, birthdays, and office functions. People trusted her food because she cooked with a mother's heart. Together, they had two children. Tomiwa, their 12-year-old son, was bright and curious, always tinkering with wires and toy cars, dreaming of becoming an engineer. And Bisi, their lively 8-year-old daughter, loved to sing. You could always hear her voice floating through the compound, belting out the latest Afrobeats hits, sometimes off-key, but always full of joy. They were not perfect, no. NEPA still took light. They still fetched water with buckets whenever the taps ran dry, and Richard still worried about school fees whenever contracts delayed. But compared to many Nigerian families, the Adiwales were blessed. Their children never went to bed hungry, and their home was filled with laughter. Clara often told her husband, while they sat together in the evenings, sipping Gary with ground nut, "We may not be the richest in this estate, Richard, but peace of mind is worth more than all the money in the world." Richard would nod, smiling as he watched their children chase each other around the compound. Life felt good, but life has a way of testing blessings. It was a humid Thursday evening. Clara stood in the kitchen, frying plantain. The rich aroma filled the house. Richard walked in, loosening his tie. He dropped into a chair and sighed. Clara glanced at him. "Work again?" He rubbed his forehead. "Contractor delayed payment. These people think I'm running charity." She smiled gently. "Don't worry. God will provide. As long as we're healthy, we'll manage." Then she hesitated as though struggling to say what was on her mind. Finally, she spoke. "Richard, there's something I want to discuss. My cousin from Kano called. She told me about a young girl, 19. Her name is Sofiyah. She lost both parents. She's been suffering. They said she's very humble and hardworking. I was thinking we should bring her in as a house help. She'll help with chores, and at least we'll be doing charity." Richard frowned. "Another person to feed? Clara, you know how things are. A bag of rice is now almost 40,000. I'm even struggling with diesel for the generator." Clara turned the plantain in the hot oil, the sizzling sound filling the silence. "I know, but Richard, sometimes blessing doesn't come from what we keep. It comes from what we give. This girl needs help, and honestly, I need help too. My catering business is growing, and I can't be everywhere at once. Please, let's try." Richard stared at her for a long time, then sighed. "You and your big heart. Fine, call your cousin. Let's see." 2 weeks later, Sofiyah arrived. It was a Sunday afternoon. The family had just returned from church when a small Ghana must-go bag appeared at their gate, followed by a shy figure. She was slim, her skin a little rough from too much sun, her gown faded and loose. She held her bag tightly like it contained her entire world. Her slippers were worn out, almost breaking at the edges. She bowed low. "Good afternoon, sir." "Good afternoon, ma. My name is Sofiyah." Her Hausa accent was thick, her voice timid. She barely raised her eyes. Clara's heart softened immediately. She stepped forward, touched the girl's shoulder, and said warmly, "You are welcome, my dear. From today, this is your new home. Treat us with respect, do your work well, and you will never lack. Tears glistened in Sofiyah's eyes. Thank you, Ma. Thank you, sir. God bless you. The children peeked from behind their mother, curious. Tomiwa whispered, Is she going to stay with us? And Bisi, ever bold, ran up to her. What's your name again? Sofiyah bent down and said softly, Sofiyah. Bisi grinned. Okay, I will call you Auntie Sophie. Everyone laughed, and just like that, the girl was welcomed into the Adewale home. At first, she blended perfectly. She woke before dawn, swept the compound, washed plates, and helped Clara in the kitchen. On weekends, she joined the children in their small chores, carrying buckets of water when the taps failed. Clara grew fond of her quickly. When friends came over, she would say proudly, This girl is different. She is respectful and humble. God really sent her to me. But Richard noticed something else. At first, Sofiyah looked frail, like a plant struggling to survive. But after a few weeks of good meals and decent living, her skin began to glow, her cheeks filled out, her eyes brightened, and her figure blossomed into youthful curves. Richard tried to dismiss it. After all, she was just a maid. But sometimes when she bent to scrub the floor or leaned forward to serve his food, his eyes lingered longer than they should. He would quickly look away, ashamed, but the thoughts remained. And Sofiyah, she wasn't blind. She noticed her Oga's wandering eyes. She noticed how he sometimes hesitated when she smiled, how his voice softened whenever he called her name. At night, lying on her thin mattress in the boys' quarters, she whispered to herself, This man, he has money. He has a good life. If I can win him, my days of suffering will be over. Her plan was forming slowly, quietly. The seed of temptation had been planted. It started small, so small that if anyone had asked, Richard would have sworn on his life that he was still faithful to his wife. One Saturday afternoon, Clara traveled to Lagos for a big catering contract. She had been hired to serve food at an engagement party, and she left the house in a rush, reminding Richard 100 times, Please take care of the children. Don't forget to lock the gate. And Richard, keep an eye on Sofiyah, too. She's still new, you know. Richard only waved her off. Clara, I beg, go and do your work. Everything will be fine. The compound fell into unusual quietness that evening. Tomiwa and Bissy ate their food and went upstairs to watch cartoons. Richard sat in the living room with his phone, scrolling through emails, while Sofiyah cleared the dining table. She moved quietly, humming a Hausa folk song as she carried the plates. The yellow bulb above flickered, the sound of crickets filling the night. As she bent over to pick up a spoon that had fallen, Richard's eyes lingered. He quickly looked away, ashamed of himself. But when he raised his head, Sofiyah caught him, and she smiled. It was a small smile, but it carried weight. A dangerous message passed silently between them. Later, she returned with a tray of ginger tea. Sir, you were coughing yesterday. I made this. It will help. Richard blinked, surprised. You did this for me? Yes, sir. She placed the cup before him. He took a sip, nodding. You're very caring. Thank you, Sofiyah. Their eyes met and neither looked away. That was how the line blurred. Days turned into weeks. Sofiyah found little ways to please him, adding extra meat to his egusi soup, pressing his shirt sharper than usual, leaving small notes like, Oga, God bless your hustle on his desk. And Richard, he began to compliment her. Sofiyah, you're looking fresh these days. Are you sure you're eating enough? You're even glowing. She would laugh softly. It is your food that is making me shine, sir. Their conversations grew warmer, longer. Sometimes they laughed together while Clara was at the market. Sometimes Richard lingered in the kitchen while she cooked. One evening there was a blackout. NEPA had struck again. Richard sat on the veranda with a lantern while Sofiyah washed plates. The children were upstairs with their torchlights. The lantern flickered. Their shadows danced against the wall. Richard handed her a bowl, their fingers brushing lightly. Neither pulled back. The silence grew thick. From that night, something shifted. It didn't take long before the whispers of their secret filled the walls of the Adewale home. Richard would slip into the kitchen late at night under the excuse of checking something. Sofiyah would disappear for minutes from her chores, only to return with her cheeks flushed. When Clara was at her catering jobs, Sofiyah's footsteps often led to Richard's room, and the neighbors noticed, especially Mama Ejiro, the estate's unofficial journalist. She had eyes sharper than CCTV cameras. She watched the way Richard sometimes smiled too easily when the maid greeted him. She noticed Sofiyah's sudden boldness, the way she carried herself like more than just a house help. One afternoon at the estate gate, she pulled Clara aside. "My sister, shine your eyes, oh. That your maid, she's too fine to be ordinary. The way your husband looks at her, it is not ordinary eye. Be careful." Clara laughed it off at first, refusing to believe it, but deep inside, worry began to grow. Soon, the cracks appeared clearly in her marriage. Richard no longer touched her with affection. He spent longer evenings at work and sometimes returned smelling faintly of perfume that was not hers. His phone was always locked, always face down. Clara's instincts screamed. One afternoon, while folding laundry, she found a folded note in Richard's trousers. In shaky handwriting, it read, "I miss you every night, yours." S. Her heart pounded. S. Could it be Sofiyah? That night she confronted him. Her voice trembled with anger. "Richard, what is going on between you and that girl? Tell me the truth before I lose my mind." Richard's eyes flashed. "Clara! Must you always suspect me? This constant nagging will scatter our home. Do you want people to laugh at us?" Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Richard, I know what I saw. Don't lie to me." But he stormed out, slamming the door. Clara fell on her knees. "God, don't let my home be destroyed. Please open my husband's eyes." But it was already too late. One evening, Sofiyah entered Richard's study. Her face was pale, her hands trembling. "Olga, I am in trouble." Richard looked up from his laptop. "What happened?" She swallowed hard, tears spilling. "I am pregnant." Richard froze. "What? Pregnant? How?" She sobbed. "It is yours. I swear, Olga, I have not been with any other man." Richard staggered back, his hands on his head. "Blood of Jesus! Sofiyah, do you know what you've done? If Clara finds out—" But Sofiyah wiped her tears and her voice turned cold. "If you don't take responsibility, I will tell Madam everything myself. Everybody will know you are the father." Richard's legs weakened. He sank into his chair, his heart pounding. He had been trapped. From that moment, nothing was the same. The Adewale household became a stage for lies and secrets. Clara sensed something was terribly wrong, but Richard avoided her eyes. Sofiyah, once shy and quiet, now walked with pride, humming loudly, her steps heavy like a queen's. And in the shadows of the estate, tongues began to wag. The once respected family was slowly becoming a tale of gossip. Music deepens, narrator's voice drops. The foundation of the Adewale home was beginning to crack, and the worst was yet to come. The storm that Clara had been praying against finally struck one humid evening. It was during dinner. The family sat at the table. Clara was serving jollof rice, Tomiwa and Bissy laughing as they fought over chicken. Richard sat silently, avoiding his wife's gaze. Sofiyah, who normally stayed in the kitchen, suddenly entered the dining room. Her eyes were steady, her voice firm. "Madam, there is something you should know." The room fell silent. Clara froze, the serving spoon still in her hand. What is it, Sofiyah? The young maid placed a hand on her stomach. I am carrying Olga's child. I cannot hide it any more. The spoon clattered to the floor. For a moment, Clara thought her ears deceived her. What did you just say? Richard's head dropped, shame written all over his face. He couldn't speak. Clara's voice cracked. Richard, tell me this is a lie. Please tell me this girl is mad. But Richard's silence was the loudest confession of all. Clara staggered back, clutching her chest. After all our years, after all my sacrifices, you betray me in my own house with the girl I brought here out of pity. Richard stammered, Clara, it was a mistake. I didn't mean, don't you dare, she screamed, her voice shaking the walls. The children burst into tears. Tomiwa shouted, Daddy, how could you do this to Mummy? Little Beesie clung to Clara, crying loudly, and then Sofiyah dropped the final bomb. Madam, mistake or not, I am part of this family now. Whether you like it or not, your husband has chosen me. Clara's knees buckled. Her world crumbled. The estate erupted with gossip. Neighbors stood by their gates, whispering. Mama Ejiro, the sharp-eyed woman who had warned Clara, shook her head. Did I not say it? That maid was too fine to be ordinary. Now see, the home has scattered. Some pitied Clara, others mocked her, but everyone talked. Unable to bear the humiliation, Clara packed her bags. She took Tomiwa and Bissy by the hand and walked out of the Adewale home, tears burning her cheeks. Richard begged, Clara, please, don't do this. Don't leave me. But she looked him in the eye and said, You already left me the day you let that girl into your bed. And with that, she was gone. At first, Richard thought he could manage. He thought Sofiyah's pregnancy would force him to start a new life with her. But peace had already fled from his house. Clients who once trusted him began to pull back. Rumors spread quickly in business circles. That Adewale? He's reckless. He couldn't even manage his own home. One by one, contracts were canceled. His truck sat idle. His bank account dried up. At home, Sofiyah changed. The sweet, timid girl he once thought he admired became loud, demanding, and entitled. Olga, you promised me a better life. Look at this house, no food inside. You must find money, because I didn't come here to suffer. Richard would bury his face in his palms, wondering how his life had spiraled so quickly. Meanwhile, Clara rebuilt herself. She moved into a modest two-bedroom flat with her children. At first it was tough. She cried at night, questioning God. But she refused to let bitterness consume her. She poured her energy into her catering business. Orders came more frequently. People supported her, admiring her courage. Soon she bought a small car to deliver food. Her name began to spread across Ibadan as Madame Clara the Caterer. Her children, though wounded, thrived under her love. Tomiwa studied harder, determined to make his mother proud. Bisi, though still young, clung to her mother with devotion. Clara rose from the ashes of betrayal like a phoenix. Richard, on the other hand, sank deeper. One evening, he returned from a failed meeting to find Sofiyah standing at the gate, screaming. Her wrapper was tied loosely, her hair scattered. Richard, where's the food? Where's the money you promised me? Look at me, look at what I've become because of you. Richard's face was hollow. His once proud shoulders sagged. He shook his head slowly. You destroyed my home, Sofiyah, and I was foolish enough to let you. Now see, we are both empty, she hissed, turning away, carrying her baby strapped to her back. Neighbors whispered as she stormed out of the compound, wandering from house to house. Richard slumped against his gate, a broken man. Months passed. Clara stood outside her small shop, watching customers line up for her food. She smiled as she served steaming plates of jollof rice. Her children stood beside her, healthy and happy. When people asked how she managed to survive such betrayal, she would simply smile and say, "Not every helper you bring into your home is truly a helper. Some come to scatter. That's why prayer is important." And so the story of the Attawale family became a warning in the estate. People whispered in low tones, the family that once laughed together was destroyed, not by poverty, not by sickness, but by a poor maid who used her beauty to tear them apart. And yet, the true destruction had come not from Sofiyah alone, but from the weakness that let temptation into the home. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful tales like this. Until next time, stay watchful